The sun has not yet climbed over the African savanna, and already a quiet battle of wills is being fought at the mouth of an old termite mound. Deep inside the hardened clay, a family of dwarf mongooses lies curled together, unwilling to give up the last of the night's warmth. And above them, perched on a bare branch, a Southern Yellow-billed Hornbill is slowly losing its patience. It is barely light. The air still carries the chill of the desert night, and the grass stands stiff and gray. Yet the bird is already awake, already hungry, and already certain of one thing. The mongooses should be awake too. So it does what it does every single morning. It drops down beside the entrance and begins to call. And when calling alone is not enough, it starts to flick dirt and tiny pebbles straight into the burrow. One by one, a row of sleepy faces appears at the opening, small, sharp-nosed, blinking against the pale light. They are not grateful. They stretch, they yawn, they groom themselves without the slightest hurry, as if the bird tossing sand at their door does not exist at all. But the hornbill waits. It is hungry, yet it waits, because it has learned that this family is worth waiting for. Why would a bird spend its mornings waking a family of small carnivores that it cannot eat and does not fear? Why would a mongoose clan tolerate a hungry hunter following its every step across the plain? And what exactly binds these two so different creatures together, morning after morning, under the same burning sky? It is a question worth asking, because almost nothing about this pairing looks like it should work. One is a bird, the other a mammal. One belongs to the air, the other to the earth. They share no language, no nest, and not a single drop of blood. By every rule the wild seems to obey, these two should ignore one another entirely. To understand it, you cannot simply watch a single moment. You have to follow them through an entire day, from the first cold light to the last, and watch every threat that tries to break them apart. Dwarf mongooses are the smallest carnivores in Africa. An adult would fit easily in a pair of human hands, weighing less than a ripe mango. Alone, such a creature is almost nothing. A meal for a snake, a snack for a hawk, a brief chase for a jackal. But dwarf mongooses are never truly alone. They live in tight family groups, a dozen or more, ruled by a single dominant pair, and everything they do together. The old termite mound is the heart of their world. It is not only a shelter from the heat and the cold, it is a fortress, riddled with tunnels and chambers, with more than one way in and more than one way out. When a snake slides down one entrance, the family pours out of another. The mound was not built by them. It was raised over many years by termites, then abandoned, then claimed. And now it belongs to the mongooses, at least until something stronger takes it away. And it is a hard world to hold on to. By day, the sun turns the open ground into an oven, and there is almost no shade to be found. By night, the same plain surrenders its heat just as quickly, and the cold sinks deep into the soil. Between those two extremes, there is no rest above the surface, only the endless pressure of finding enough food and warmth before something finds you first. That is why so much of life out here happens not on the land, but beneath it, in the cool, steady dark of the tunnels, where the temperature barely shifts while the world above burns and freezes by turns. Before they leave for the day, the family performs a strange ritual. One after another, they back up against a stone, a stump, a tuft of grass, lift their bodies almost upside down, and mark it with their scent. Standing on their front legs, they leave that mark as high as they possibly can. To a stranger passing later, the message is a lie, and a useful one. A scent left that high suggests a far larger animal lives here. It is the first of many tricks a creature this small must use to survive. And the mongooses have another gift, hidden in their blood and their noses. Their sense of smell is extraordinary. They can find a beetle grub buried under a layer of soil, a scorpion tucked beneath a stone, prey that leaves no trace on the surface at all. And they are among the most venom-resistant animals on the savanna. Scorpions, venomous spiders, biting centipedes. All of these are not threats to a dwarf mongoose. They are breakfast. But a family this small cannot survive on sharp senses alone, and so it survives on order. While most of the group feeds, there is almost always one animal that does not. It climbs a little higher than the rest, onto a mound, a stone, a fallen branch, sits upright, and simply watches. It does not dig, it does not chase. Its single task is to see danger coming before anyone else can. And the mongooses take turns at this duty, relieving one another through the day, so that the family is almost never left without a pair of watching eyes. They even have a language for it, a whole vocabulary of alarm. One sound means danger on the ground, a snake or a jackal, and the family pulls tight together. Another, sharp and clipped, means danger from above, and every animal knows in an instant which way to run. The sentinel does not merely cry that death is near, it tells the others exactly where it is coming from. So when the family finally decides that the morning has begun, they spread out across the ground and start to dig. Noses down, small paws throwing up sprays of sand, they tear into the base of a termite mound or the roots of a shrub. And within moments, life that spent the night safely hidden under the soil is suddenly exposed to the open air. This is the moment the hornbill has been waiting for all along. As the mongooses dig, insects burst from cover and scatter in every direction. Beetles, grasshoppers, small lizards, all of them flushed into the open. And the bird is ready. It darts in with its long, curved bill and snatches up the ones that try to flee. At first, it looks like simple theft, a lazy bird stealing from hard-working hunters. But it is far more clever than that. The hornbill has turned the entire mongoose family into a moving hunting party. Wherever they go, they stir up the ground. And wherever the ground is stirred, a feast rises to the surface. The bird does not need to search, it only needs to follow. The mongooses have become its own walking, digging, tirelessly working dinner table. And the mongooses barely seem to care. A few lost insects mean nothing to them, because what the bird gives in return is worth far more than a handful of beetles. The Southern Yellow-billed Hornbill is a creature of habit and patience. Easy to know by its long, down-curved bill and the bright, bare skin around its eye. For much of the year, it lives by this single arrangement, drifting behind the family from first light until dusk. It has learned their trails, their favorite mounds, the rhythm of their days. It has even learned to tell their separate alarm calls apart. And it will hurl itself toward cover at a warning meant for a creature it does not even resemble. To a passing stranger, the bird might look like a thief or a beggar. In truth, it is something far rarer, a partner that has spent its entire life learning the habits of another animal, simply because those habits keep it fed and keep it alive. High above, where the mongooses almost never look, the danger is already circling. A martial eagle, one of the most powerful hunters in all of Africa. It rides the warm air on wings that span farther than a grown man is tall, and it does not flap, and it does not cry out. It simply drifts, silent and patient, scanning the ground far below for anything small enough to carry away. From the mongoose's point of view, low to the earth among the grass, such a shadow is almost impossible to spot in time. Almost. Because the hornbill spends much of its life looking up. Its sharp eyes are always moving between the ground beneath its feet and the wide sky above. And the instant it sees that shadow, everything changes. The bird bursts into a sharp, urgent series of calls, its wings beating hard against the air, a sound utterly unlike its lazy morning chatter. The mongooses do not stop to look for the threat themselves. They do not need to. They simply run. In a heartbeat, the open ground empties. The whole family pours back toward the mound and vanishes underground, as though they had never been there at all. And the eagle sweeps low over bare, silent earth, its talons closing on nothing. A few breaths pass. Then a single head lifts at the entrance, testing the air, waiting, before the family slowly dares to return to the surface. And only now does the hornbill soften its voice, telling them, in its own way, that the sky is clear again. For the bird, sounding that alarm costs almost nothing. A few seconds of noise, a little wasted energy. But for the mongoose family, that same warning is the difference between life and death. And here, in this simple exchange, lies the entire secret of their strange partnership. The mongooses give the hornbill a feast it could never gather alone. The hornbill gives the mongooses a pair of eyes fixed on the one direction they cannot watch. Think about what that really means. Every extra creature at the mound is another pair of eyes, another nose, another sentinel standing guard. 3 senses pointed in 3 directions. Down into the soil, out across the grass, and up into the empty sky. Alone, each animal is blind on at least one side. Together, they see almost everything. This is not friendship, and it is important to be honest about that. It is the cold, patient arithmetic of survival, and it almost never fails. The morning wears on, and the plain grows busy. The mongooses fan out, digging, sniffing, tumbling over one another, while always at least one of them lifts its head to check the horizon before dropping back to work. The hornbill drifts from perch to perch, snapping up what the digging drives loose. For a while, the savanna is nothing more than the small, ordinary, endless work of staying alive. The martial eagle is not the only hunter that works the sky. Over these same grasslands, a pale, chanting goshawk often waits, a smaller and more cunning killer that has learned to shadow foraging parties from a bare branch or a low post. It does not bother to find its own prey. It lets the mongooses do that work for it, then drops the instant a lizard or a fat insect bolts into the open. But the very sharpness of eye that earns it a meal also betrays it the moment it leaves its perch. The sentinel catches the movement, the alarm sounds, and the ground empties before the strike can ever land. Again and again, the same simple system saves them, not because they are strong, but because someone is always watching the sky. But peace on the savanna never lasts long. The hornbill stops feeding. It flies up to a high branch and stares out across the grass, its body suddenly tense and still. A moment later, the alarm rings out again, and once more the mongooses scatter toward the safety of the mound. This time, though, there is no eagle in the sky. The danger is coming low, along the ground, hidden among the dry stems. And on the savanna, more often than not, death does not fall from above. It slides in from the side. A snake has found the mound. Long, patient, and utterly silent, it is drawn by the cool of the tunnels, and, worse, by the scent of young mongooses hidden inside. For most small animals, a snake this size means certain death. A single serpent deep in the burrow could take an entire litter, one after another, while the world above suspects nothing. But the dwarf mongooses do not flee into the dark, because the dark is exactly where the snake wants them. Instead, something remarkable happens. The family does not scatter and hide. They gather. They press together into a single tight, bristling mass, and they move toward the danger rather than away from it. They rise up, they hiss, they lunge forward all at once, swelling to look far larger and far more terrible than any of them truly is. What was a group of tiny, separate creatures becomes a single furious animal, many times the size of any one member. The snake lifts its head, testing this strange, seething wall in front of it. It expected a single frightened victim. Instead, it faces a whole family that has risen as one, and the Mongoose's resistance to venom makes them braver than any lone animal could ever be. They dart in and out, forcing the snake to strike at empty air, then closing again the instant it recoils. Against a solid wall of bodies that will not break and will not flee, the snake has nothing to gain. Sooner or later, it grows tired of the fruitless siege. It lowers its head, turns, and slides away across the sand in search of easier prey. The mound has held. And once again, not because any single mongoose was strong, but because there were many of them, and each one knew its place. The dominant pair holds the center, the others press in from the sides, and the whole family fights as one body with one purpose. When the snake is gone, the sentinel keeps watch a little longer, its eyes moving between the grass and the sky. Then it trades the alarm for a softer, easier sound. All clear. And one by one, the family returns to the work the danger interrupted. The diggers go back to the soil, the foragers back to their trails, and the hornbill drops down once more to claim its share of whatever the digging drives loose. Everything picks up exactly where it left off, as if nothing had happened at all. And yet this alliance has another side, and it is only honest to admit it. It rests on no promise and no affection. It rests on cold calculation, made fresh every single day. The hornbill is not a loyal friend. It is a hungry opportunist that has found a very good deal. On a hard day, it will happily snatch the largest insect from under a mongoose's nose. And the mongooses, for their part, would not hesitate to defend a meal that they consider their own. Down here, there is no love, only need. But as long as the savanna outside remains more dangerous than the neighbor at your side, it is worth more to tolerate one another than to fight. The moment the threat lifts, every small quarrel is simply set aside for better times. This is an alliance not of kindness, but of necessity, and that is exactly what makes it so strong. The partnership does not end with the bird either. As the day warms, the mongooses catch a familiar scent and, strangely, run toward a much larger animal rather than away from it. A warthog, heavy and slow, its skin cracked and folded from rolling in dried mud. The mud cools it and shields it from the sun, but once it hardens, ticks burrow into every crease and fold. For the warthog, these parasites are a constant itching burden. For the mongooses, they are a rich and effortless meal. The little hunters swarm up onto its shoulders, its back, its neck, and the great animal simply stands there and lets them. With sharp teeth, they pluck the fattened ticks from its hide, one after another, cleaning wounds the warthog could never reach on its own. 3 different animals, 3 completely different ways of finding food, and yet all of them walk away from a single encounter better off than before. By late afternoon, the heat begins to loosen its grip, and the shadows stretch long across the plain. The family gathers one last time to feed before darkness falls, filling their bellies against the cold night ahead. The hornbill takes its final meals of the day beside them, then lifts away to its roost as the light fades. And the mongooses slip back into the mound, down into the safe, familiar dark, packed warm against one another for the night. And so it goes, day after day, season after season. The mongooses dig and forage and mark their borders and raise their young. The hornbill wakes them, follows them, and guards the sky above them. Neither owes the other anything. Neither would risk its life for the other. And yet, morning after morning, they choose the same arrangement, because on this plain, it simply works better than going it alone. New litters are born, old animals give way to young ones, and the details change with every passing year. The young learn all of it by watching. They learn which shadow means run and which call means all is well. They learn to dig, to stand guard, to read the hornbill's voice as surely as they read their own. Nothing here is written down, and nothing is taught with words. It is simply lived, one day at a time, and passed quietly from one generation to the next. But the mound endures, and with it the habit of two unlike species living as one. On the savanna, survival does not belong to the strongest. It does not belong to the fastest, or the largest, or the fiercest. It belongs to those who understood, in time, a simple and uncomfortable truth. Sometimes your most reliable guardian is not your own kind at all, but the stranger who happens to watch the sky while you watch the ground. And the safest home is rarely the one you build entirely by yourself. It is the one you are willing to share. That is one of the oldest lessons this land has kept, silent and unchanged, for millions of years. And every single morning, at the mouth of an old termite mound, a small bird and a small family choose, once again, to remember it together.